Hello, I'm Larry and this is Carter's Country. Today, really happy to have Travis Carter here with me. We're going to talk about something that's relatively new to Carter's Country. We're seeing a lot of growth and interest in this in the gun world in general, and that's suppressors. You've heard them called cans, silencers, suppressors, whatever. By any name, it's the same thing. So what we're trying to do today is kind of go over some pros and cons, and it's not so much the cons as is maybe things you should know ahead of time so you can make informed decisions and get the right can for your firearm. And we're going to kind of go over those things first, just to make people aware of questions they need to ask, research maybe they need to do on their own, and things they need to be prepared to ask and discuss with our sales professionals when they come into the store. First on that list, you're going to add to the overall length of the gun.
That's going to be your number one hindrance in a hunting scenario for suppressors, period. Most of your big bore rifles are going to be slated for 22 to 26 inch barrel, depending on the caliber. So now if you're talking about a 6 to 9 inch can on top of that, I mean, your overall length of your weapon is extremely long sometimes.
Yeah.
It does hinder you a tad bit more in blinds, just trying to get that rifle out the window with the suppressor on there. In more of your Western style, your spot and stalk hunting, it's not a huge hindrance, but it's just something to keep in mind, that added length when it comes time to maneuver that rifle onto your sticks, get braced for a shot. I mean, you're just dealing with, again, some extra length there that's creating a very, very long rifle overall.
Right.
So transport in and out of the field sometimes is a little bit of a tough thing, but well worth on the backside. I mean, if that's the only thing that really is a hinder in a bolt action platform to have a suppressor on it, nothing that should deter you from having it at all.
The positives far outweigh that. And
by far, yeah.
if you go in to get a suppressor and you don't have the gun for it yet, take that into consideration when you get the gun, right? So
you'll see a lot of production rifles now that will come stock, number one, threaded and with a shorter barrel configuration to compensate for that suppressor added length there.
Knowing that people are going to add a suppressor. Yeah, that whole market's booming, and I think that's obviously one of the things that led us at Carter's Country into getting into it, and obviously doing this video too. A second thing that's unavoidable is you're going to add some weight. Now this weight can vary, of course, on the suppressor that you're buying, what firearm you're putting it on, but inevitably it is going to make it heavy, and in fact a little bit front heavy maybe.
Sometimes 100%. The cans in the market, you have one of your biggest deciding factors when it comes to cans is going to be weight, and with the weight is actually material what the material that is used to manufacture the can, right? That's going to be the big variance in the different weights there. Your steel cans will be far heavier than your titanium. Yeah, you can definitely choose kind of which weight you're going to go with, and that's going to be dependent on price point as well. So you do add some weight, but some of them are as light as 7 to 9 ounces. I mean, you're talking about half a pound on the front of a rifle. Your weight distribution at that point is kind of a null point. Now a steel can, a 9-inch steel can on the front of a already predominantly light rifle on a 6-pound, 7-pound configuration, something kind of more your sport or mountain rifle, you will definitely notice a steel can on the front of that coming in at more of a pound. I mean, now you're talking 20% of the rifle weight that's hanging off the front of the barrel, especially if you're on a 24 to 26 inch barrel, right? Then you're very front heavy.
Then you're really going, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where I'm talking about when you're aware of that before you buy the can, you can help make it a bit more informed decision on which can you're going to get.
100%.
Yeah. Now this next thing, we're not going to get too deep into the weeds from a technical standpoint on this, and this is, I think, specific to your semi-automatics, is the back pressure. These guns operate on a gas system, and you're going to get some back pressure added with the suppressor on there. There's a lot of ways with the modern sporting rifles that you can make adjustments to kind of work around any issues that the can may create for you. Again, a lot of that you can head off the pass by knowing before you buy, also communicating with your sales professional, here's the gun that's going on, here's my purpose using the gun. That can steer you to the right kind of can to help avoid or minimize some of the things we're talking about here with back pressure and things like that.
Absolutely. On the back pressure side, which is going to cause the next talking point, kind of the gas in the face, the over-gassing. A lot of these there's a handful of manufacturers out now that have flow-through cans, which will kind of circumvent the gas issues on but that wraps right back into what you're saying. If I know that this can is going to go on my AR or my semi-automatic platform, maybe a flow-through can is where you want to be on that, to allow to compensate for that gas pressure difference. to add, to help with the overgassing, to help with the actual gas system overall. Those flow-through cans will help you with that.
And another thing, if let's say you've already bought a can, then you notice these problems. Some ARs come with an adjustable gas
Gas block.
system, a block in it. Others, you can do some things. The bolt assembly, your buffer tube. There's workarounds available for any issues that you have with a can that you've already bought. But I think you made a great point. Knowing these things up front, doing a little research. If you've already got your gun, how hard is it? Go online, say this is the gun I've got. Here, does anybody have this exact gun with a can on it? What are your experiences? What have you learned? What can do you have? There's a lot of information you can find out before you come into the store, but then we will also have sales professionals to kind of guide you through that as well. So when we're talking about these things being a con, it's not a reason not to buy one. It's just things to know before you do.
Absolutely.
Right?
Get you a little more prepared to do your proper product selection there. With that being said, we do try to stock some of the not nicest. We do try to stock some of the bigger names out there currently. The can market is its own market, though. I mean, it's its own industry, so you got to keep in mind that there are hundreds of variations and different models from every single manufacturer. If it's something that you find out there that's going to be perfect for your setup, but we don't have it on hand, just know that we can special order any can out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they manufacture it, we can get it.
We can find it, yes, and we've proven that in the gun market for 60 plus years. If you find it, we can find it.
100%.
The next thing that we're going to talk about here is something that's kind of unique to the can versus any life experiences you've had with a gun, and that is the cleaning. Just understand that the cleaning is going to be probably a lot more meticulous. You're going to have to be a lot more careful with it, and it's probably going to be a lot more time consuming. Usually though, I think most cases they're talking about 500 to 1500 round range before you get into cleaning discussions. Depending on the gun and what you're using it for, there's a really good chance you're never going to hit that range.
Absolutely, and some of these cans, not to cut you off there, but some of these cans, they are modular to adjust the length. A lot of them have removable baffles. So once you start going to that cleaning side as well, if you're taking apart your can, removing the baffle systems and going to a sonic cleaner, all that stuff is very, very, very important. When you put it back together, it goes back the exact same.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Guys aren't famous for being willing to follow instructions, but if there's one time you're ever going to follow instructions to the letter, it's going to be when you're cleaning that suppressor, because otherwise you may get to a point where nobody can help you. Another thing I think is on the con list, and it's definitely a beware of this, is the heat they can generate. I wasn't aware of this. You just kind of enlightened me on that a little bit. Talk a little bit about that. How fast do they get hot? What can you do about it? I see this one is wrapped. I don't know if that's some sort of protection
guard.
against that. Okay, so that's exactly what it is. Okay.
So you got to think about what that can's doing at the end of that muzzle, right? So that is trapping and then timely releasing all the gas. That's where your suppression comes from. Well, all that gas that's coming out of the end of this barrel is extremely hot, right? All of that's being contained by this 7, 6, 5, 9-inch can. They heat up extremely quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean 2 or 3 shots, you don't want to touch that can at all. You'll see a lot of heat shields be placed on them. A lot of them, I mean, they look cool, but also, I mean, very, very functional. It's just natural to grab the end of a barrel, to grab that suppressor, to get that rifle out of the rack.
Right.
If you have been shooting, like I said, I mean, they will be extremely hot, so you don't ever want to touch them. You will see some heat distortion through your optic as well, but I mean, now you're talking about round count. If you're out there shooting that much, it's going to be kind of expected as one thing you'll experience that you don't have out of a normal barrel, unless you will see it sometimes out of a steel barrel, some heat distortion through your optic, but not nearly as quickly as what you'll see out of a suppressor. Yeah.
Okay. So wow, that's one of those. I guess that's one mistake. If you make that mistake once, that'll probably be the only time you make that mistake.
You hope.
It's kind of lesson that tends to stick with me. The last thing, and this is, no retailer likes to really talk about this, but the cost. They're not cheap, right? And that's just the way it is.
They are not cheap. We've kind of touched on the different manufacturing techniques and materials used to produce cans. That will kind of drive your market. Not kind of, it will drive your price point 100%. On that side, the flip side of the fact that they do cost a little bit of money, right? It's $200 tax stamp to the government, number one. The can paid in full, your price points, you've got some great manufacturers now kind of undercutting the market, like we've seen through the firearm market through TSIS and all these people where your quality is very, very close, almost matched, but your price point's at 60-70% of the retail value.
Competition's a good thing for the consumer.
Absolutely. On the backside of the cost, a lot of these cans these days are modular, right? You choose your connecting points, whether it be direct thread, your chemo mounts, your multitude of mounting options will provide a pretty modular setup. I mean, very rarely are you going to see somebody buy a can for every single rifle, right? I mean, it's a one can solution for multiple rifles. So the cost up front does seem a little heavy, I mean, and is heavy. But if you think about it more, hey, I've got 12 bolt action rifles that are threaded and I have one solution for all of them now. If you divide that cost out, I mean, it will drive it down a tad bit. But
now we're going to kind of move, obviously, into a different platform here with the bolt action rifles, and we're going to talk about the reasons people want a can on their hunting rifle or on any gun. And first, it's painfully obvious. It's sound suppression. It's what they're called suppressors, so it kind of makes sense.
You hear that a lot, and not subjugating anybody at all, but some of your older people, they're hearing, I don't need hearing protection, I've never used it, never will, that kind of deal. Very, very
yeah, that's true.
very steadfast on that mentality. It happens a lot in hunting scenarios as well. Oh, I don't even hear the rifle when it goes off. Am I blind? I don't hear the rifle when I squeeze the trigger on an animal. That's just ignorance. You definitely do. Your ears are ringing after. I've seen hundreds of hunters do the exact same thing. So we try to promote suppressors as much as possible because of those scenarios more than anything, right? Those few shots you're taking a year with your muzzle brake or just a bare barreled rifle in those hunting scenarios are doing far more damage than you can even fathom.
Right.
Every time that ear rings, I know it's redundancy for most people, they all know this, but every time your ears ring, I mean, you're losing that frequency for hearing for the rest of your life, right?
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't come back. There is no reversing unless you put hearing aids in there. So on the sound side, it is one of the greatest things that's happened to the firearms industry. It's great to see them becoming more prevalent and more around because it is huge. You catch it, and if you can catch it early, which a lot of these guys are now, a lot of your younger customers, your younger users of guns across the board, more shooting sports we get into, to have these suppressors couple that backside and help the hearing side and the people around you. I mean, if you're shooting on benches with people around you, how much you save them as well. I know it's not about anybody else ever, but it does help a ton, yourself and everybody around you.
Now, this next thing we're going to talk about here, we understand it may be very minimal, and it may not be true in all cases, but you're lengthening your barrel, and in some situations with certain loads, certain calibers, barrel length, whatever, you may see a slight increase in velocity with that suppressor on there. Right?
You'll see you will see an increased velocity out of a few guns. Some setups, the biggest takeaway there is the change of your point of impact, right? Especially in hunting scenarios. You go out and you sight your rifle in, well then you throw your can on there and you don't shoot it again. Understanding your point of impact is going to be different.
Right.
So not necessarily a pro or a con there, it's just a piece of knowledge to take into the field with you. Make sure you're testing all your rifles under suppression before you go out and want to use them in a hunting scenario or any other scenario that might come about there.
This next thing, and I think this actually may help with the improved accuracy as well, and that is the recoil anticipation and the noise anticipation. Everybody says they don't flinch. Everybody at least once has flinched. As big a part of the flinching is the recoil anticipation. I think every bit as much of it is the sound anticipation. You're taking one more thing out of the equation that should help your accuracy improve. So it's another win for having the suppressor, not only like you were talking about for the people around you, but for yourself, your shooting technique, everything that being suppressed is only going to help.
Hunter, yeah, absolutely. My grandfather was a big proponent of that. I mean, I've been a avid user of hearing protection for as long as I can remember. I mean, I will not shoot a gun without it. And a big reason I started that, well, hearing protection number one, but also the fact that the flinch that is caused by the anticipation of the noise is actually, for most people, one of the biggest problems. They just don't give it any weight. They don't pay attention to it because they don't think that's what it is.
Right.
People will shoot consistently better with hearing protection. Now, if you circumvent hearing protection, not even circumvent, want to use them in tandem, but having that suppressor on the end of the rifle does absolutely increasing your shooting ability and your overall consistency with shooting if you reduce the anticipation for that noise.
Yeah, and I'm learning as I'm trying to get more into distance shooting. I need every advantage I can because it is a real challenge. The further out you go, man, I'm having to think more than I've ever thought in my life firing a gun. So that's just one more thing to take out of the equation. Another one, and this is one you could probably speak to with all the time you spend out guiding hunts and things like that, is the way it was put, I think, on our paperwork was signature reduction, disturbing the herd. It stands to reason that if you're reducing the noise, there's no way it doesn't somehow reduce the impact on the herd that's not being affected by that particular shot.
Yeah, we completely agree. We've actually really tried to push a suppressor only prerogative with our hunting operations. We're probably running about 80% suppressed, 20% non. And
That's high.
A big reason of that is actually pressure on the game, right? And you can quantify it and you can get as minute as you want to and say it doesn't change much. But for us, in areas, especially with higher hunting pressure, imagine if everybody hunting there was suppressed. How much less disruption on the game you're going to do.
Right. Not only on the game you can see, but the guy with the stand to the west of you and the wind's blowing out of the east, you're doing him a big favor by being suppressed as well.
100%. Yeah, it's less pressure on the game, less pressure on the hunter or the human for that matter. It's your signature reduction is going to be big, and it's a big thing, especially if you're in the management side of any game at all or property. You'll see that a lot of people, especially in the different kind of subcultures of hunting, South Texas hunting being huge with it right now, suppressors are almost mandatory because of the reduction of pressure on the game.
That shift has happened in the mentality and the thought process of why you have that suppressor. I think until a lot of people started getting it, a lot of the benefits people didn't really think about. They only thought of one thing: it quiets the gun, without thinking about all of the domino effect that has on other things.
Yes, sir.
And going to that, and this last one that you did mention, and this I think is the best way to do it: tandem of some sort of hearing protection and a suppressor. But if you don't have the hearing protection on, and you see that animal you've been stalking, and he unexpectedly pops up there with that suppressor, there's less of a need to try to fumble around, get hearing protection on and all that. You can be ready to fire a lot quicker in the situation where preparation, if you've ever hunted, those animals sometimes just don't give you the opportunity to be prepared as you would like to be.
You can't script it, yeah. One thing I'll add here too is being on the guide side of things quite a bit. I mean, I'm on the other side of the binos, and I'm trying to communicate with my older client that maybe hasn't worn hearing protection his entire life. Try communicating through hearing protection with somebody that's hearing diminished already. It's very, very difficult.
Without disturbing the animal or people, yeah.
Right, so with that suppressor, it allows that ease of communication as well out in the field.
That's a great point,
and it might, not everybody's hunting with a guide, but say your hunting buddy, however, it just reduces that factor of the hunting side to get, busted or to be exposed as the hunter. That helps a ton.
How much of a learning curve for you guys as a guide? We've already talked about the hunting has shifted that way. How much of a learning curve was it for you as a guide to learn to guide suppressed hunters versus non-suppressed? Were you kind of learning some of the ins and outs of the suppressor game as they were hunting, and hunt by hunt you're learning more about it too?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, suppressors until probably 5 to 7 years ago really were like an unknown.
Right.
And that doesn't mean across all industries, but just, your general hunter was timid about the suppressors, timid about the paperwork, timid about the process, all of that. So we didn't really roll them in until about 5 years ago. And as we rolled them in, you start seeing them more. We start pushing our own rifles on our clients. Hey, man, this optic's a little bit better than what you have. Oh, also it's suppressed. So we also learned exactly what you're saying. There's not so much different tactics, but the different advantages became so much more apparent.
Right.
The more we use them, right? The more you utilize it, the more you have field time and the more time you spend behind that rifle with that suppressor in an actual hunting scenario. We've learned quite a bit, and we've seen these cons and the pros from all sides of it.
Right.
It's been a learning curve, but not so much to learn. More of it's been increase in our experience. You know,
to see what you can take advantage of.
It's helped us in our scenarios, in our guide hunter scenarios. It's helped us so much from a few of the things we've talked about. You know, the communication side, the disruption on the game, the overall comfort of shooting, the ability to get those follow-up shots and not have to scramble so much because this guy's ears ringing and my hearing protection was off and everybody, you know, we've got the camera disgruntled. Everybody's, you know, running around. So yeah, we've learned quite a bit by utilizing them, but it hasn't been oh man, what are we going to do with this? You know, it's been a pretty easy, smooth learning curve, and one we were blessed to have.
Yeah, and I think there's a good lesson in that too for the shooter who's buying a can. Once you buy it and you've got it on the gun, practice with it. Get used to handling the gun in the situations where you might, you know, use it in an actual hunting application. Get used to, like you said, your point of impact is going to be different with it on or with it off. So get used to with it being on for when you do get out there, so that when you're out there and it's your first hunt with the can, you're not completely green where the guide is really having to kind of talk you through some things that ideally you could have found out by on your own had you practiced a little bit more, gotten a little more used to your setup before you went out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do your own due diligence. Be a competent hunter no matter the scenario, whether it be a guided hunt, your own hunt. There's only so many factors you can control as a hunter.
Yeah,
and make
that's
sure you
true.
try to control them. You know.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, thank you very much for taking the time out of your schedule to come do this with us. I know you've got all kinds of irons in the fire right now. It's time of the year. People are starting to book hunts. You've got store issues going on. So really appreciate you taking the time to do this, giving us some insight we couldn't have got from anybody else here, particularly on the guiding part of it and your own personal experience with the suppressors. Thank you again for that. And remember, if you've ever shopped, shot, or hunted with us, you're already a part of the Carter's Country family. Till next time, adios.